Alwyn Crawshaw is a leading British artist who was born in Yorkshire and now lives in Devon. His painting career began in earnest as a young art student in Sussex. He is a member of the Society of Equestrian Artists, the British Watercolour Society, and a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. He has written many best-selling learn-to-paint books, and in his studio above the Crawshaw Gallery in Dawlish, he paints, arranges exhibitions, painting holidays, and writes for art magazines.
Hello. Well, here I am in my studio and we're all ready to start an oil painting. Gosh, it gets you all excited, doesn't it? How do you start an oil painting? Well, the way I suggest is to do it with pencil. Now, this is one of the ways. There are different methods, but let me show you the pencil. That is, I'm working on oil sketching paper, and you can see I've simply drawn the thing in, drawn our subject in. I've been quite free. There's nothing very tight or detailed, because some of these lines are in fact going to be covered up anyway when you paint. Now, if you're concerned about that, then the next stage would be to draw it over with a terpsy wash using a small nylon brush, and that's what I've done here. In fact, what you can do, you can go straight in with a terpsy brush and draw it with that and not the pencil. But if you're a bit worried, then draw it in pencil first. You feel more relaxed drawing it in pencil because you're used to pencil. We've always used pencils. And then you can go over it with your brush, but don't try and copy it exactly. If you do, you'll be all tight. Just use the pencil as a guide and work over the top, and that's what I've done in here. Well, from here you could actually paint. Go ahead and paint, but there's still another method that we can use. We can go further than that, and we can go into what we call a terpsy underpainting. And I've drawn this first to show you so that I'm doing it the same way. Then I've painted over with terps with a brush to show the shapes and hold the forms. Then what I've done, I've got in the tonal values by painting in with terps and with just one colour blue, and where I wanted it lighter, I've added more terps. Very much like watercolour painting. And you saw me do it with the terps. It's straightforward, and just let the brush go over it. You can see the brush strokes in there. I was using the long hold there and really getting going with that sky, and it gives you a lovely feeling, does this? It really does. But what you must do is leave the whites, that is in the white paper, for the highlights, so that all the light areas you leave white paper, and the darks you really get some dark paint in there, and it really gives it that lovely feeling. Now there's still another stage further than that, but before I tell you that, let me explain one thing. When you're looking at a subject, half close your eyes, squeeze them up and squint, and half close your eyes at the subject, and what that will do, it will make all the darks go really dark, make all the lights be light, and you'll miss a lot of middle tones, and that can show you the relationship between darks and lights, and believe me, it does help. Make a habit of doing it. Practice it. You must practice and get used to it. So after doing that, you could paint away quite happily because you've got the whole thing in, and you would just work on top of that. But the other final way that I work, after all, when I say work this way, this is the way I suggest you work. There are all sorts of different ways. You can work without drawing, straight in with your paint. And don't worry about any drawing at all. Just let the coloured paint make the shapes and the marks. But don't try that to start with. I mean, you really want some sort of confidence before you start, before you get into working like that. So this is the final stage, if you like, that you can use, whereby you've done everything except instead of the blue terpsy wash, what you have done, you've done it in colour. And you haven't mixed white with it. Don't mix white because it won't be as transparent then. Just keep your plain colours and then make them paler by adding terps, mix them together to make the colours, of course, and then go over all of it, remembering to get the tonal values as well. And then you would work straight when that dries, and it doesn't take long to dry. Even if it's a bit wet, you can still work over the top, and the rest of it will be drying as you work away. So that is really the way that we can start a painting. We can draw it, or we can do it with a terpsy wash with a brush and draw it with a brush, or we can then add the tonal values with the blue terpsy wash, or we can do it this way by adding tonal values with the colours that we're actually looking at. Now, it's just one last thing to do with starting a painting, and that is that when you work on white, it can be very worrying, it can be a bit frightening, especially if you're outside and the glare of the sun on it, and it's slightly worrying. So a lot of painters in oil do colour the canvas, and all they've got to do is to put on a terpsy wash of a colour, usually a yellow ochre warm colour. Now, not only does it kill the brightness of it, but it holds the painting together, because where the colours, when you're painting and the brushstroke doesn't, if you like, cover exactly the back of the, or the underpainting, it would leave white. Well, this leaves a warm colour. It leaves this colour all the way through. So you're getting a sort of holding together of the painting with this warm colour. And it does help to make the painting knit together. And it's a great help for starting a painting. I do it a lot. I use it a lot. Now, while you're watching, you'll be seeing the brushstrokes go through their different motions, putting on different marks and making things happen. Watch it closely, listen to me talking. Hope I don't talk too much, but don't worry, everything's going to happen. So sit back, relax, and enjoy it. Well, I've prepared the canvas, smooth canvas, and prepared it with a terpsy wash of a yellow ochre colour over the top. And I'm ready to paint it in with a brush. So I've drawn it in with pencil, and now I'm simply going to paint it in with my sable so that it's there to work from. Be very free and nice and carefree with these mountains. In fact, these are mountains. It's this is on the Caledonian Canal in Scotland, and it's at Fort William, and so I've got to make sure that these mountains look nice and sweeping. Incidentally, those are fields, or not fields running up the mountain, but areas of green where the sun was catching on them, and it's rather nice. So I've put them in. Let's carry on over here. What I normally do is try, where possible, to work from, when I'm drawing it in like this, work from left to right. The reason is that if I'm working from right to left, then I've got the problem of resting on something that's all wet, and I do like to rest on a canvas when I can. So I try as much as possible to work left to right. Now I'm filling in the small areas that are dark as I go along, although what I will be doing after I've drawn it in is to put in the tonal areas with this colour, this sort of terpsy wash,